Thank you for your interest in AbleBridge EditAble CRM Grid for Microsoft Dynamics CRM. This video will walk you through the basics of our solution. AbleBridge EditAble CRM Grid is available for both CRM online and on-premises deployments and works with either system or custom entities. Editable CRM Grid delivers a richer user experience by representing information more efficiently on CRM forms and supports inline grid editing, flexible layout options, Microsoft Excel export, section grouping, sorting, and much more. Let's take a look at some examples of what Editable CRM Grid can do. An editable grid can be placed on any CRM form. Here's an example of an editable grid built off a custom entity called Buildings and displayed on the account form. It shows information about the units in two different buildings, including square footage, monthly rent, and lease expiration. Simply double-click any of the records to activate the Edit feature. You can edit multiple records at once. After you're done, commit your changes by clicking Save. You can also use the grid to create records or delete them, all without having to leave the form. This grid is set up to group the data and show subtotals based on that grouping category. Boston Properties has two buildings. As you can see, Great Road has 4 units and Washington Plaza has 3 units. In addition to grouping, the grid also uses inline calculations. Square footage is multiplied by price per square foot to determine the yearly lease. Another calculation divides this number by 12 to get the monthly amount. I'd like to know the monthly income being generated based on the current occupancy level, but that information isn't readily available in this view. Editable CRM Grid allows dynamic grouping so you can see information in a way that's more relevant to what you're looking for. I'll regroup the data by occupancy instead of building to find the information that I need. Now we can see the current monthly income is $15,697.17, and an additional $6,166.66 could be gained by leasing Unit D at Great Road and Unit B at Washington Plaza. Grouping records can provide visibility into metrics you would otherwise have to calculate on your own. The Editable CRM Grid toolbar can be configured to include an Export to Excel button. This provides the user with the option to export as formatted data, as presented in the grid, or as unformatted data. Formatted data is great if you need to print this information or send it in an email. Raw unformatted data allows you to further process the information and is ideal for importing into CRM or other solutions. Let's take a look at a more advanced grid. This grid highlights the capability of associating multiple grids to one another. Boston Properties owns 5 different investment properties in the Boston area. The figures in this grid are a summary of the data related to the offices within each property. To see information about the offices at a particular location, just select the property and a related grid will populate below. Let's take a look at 4 Miles Lane. Here are the 6 offices at that property. Any changes made here will be reflected in the summary data above. For example, I'll change the square footage for Unit 5 to 1700 and save. Next, I'll refresh the summary grid and you'll notice the square footage and monthly rent will automatically increase based on the change for 4 Miles Lane. As you can see, multiple grids can be placed on the same form. This grid is configured against the standard case entity. Once again, we can see the grid's grouping capabilities. With a quick glance, I can see how many cases are categorized as active, canceled, and resolved. To find out more information about a record, just click on the title to launch the case form. Another helpful feature of Editable CRM Grid is the ability to customize the toolbar. This grid is configured against a custom entity called Metals and utilizes the inline calculation feature. Because metal prices can vary from day to day, Boston Bank needs a way to quickly check prices. We've configured the toolbar to launch an external site to see the latest info on the metals market. Editable CRM grids aren't just limited to forms. A grid can be placed on a dashboard or launched from the navigation pane. This grid is configured to show all open opportunities. The data is grouped by record owner and sorted based on the estimated close date. This view makes it very simple to see how many opportunities each salesperson is working on and the total estimated revenue. Like editable grids on the forms, this one can also be used to edit multiple records at once, which can be especially helpful for a salesperson or sales manager to make quick information updates to the sales pipeline. Multi-currency support is inherited from the currencies and exchange rates set up in Microsoft Dynamics CRM. In addition to US dollars, this grid has been set up for euros and pesos, but any currencies supported in CRM can be used. Editable CRM Grid allows users to make edits to list views using the Editable CRM Views section, which can be found under Settings. Simply select the entity in view that you'd like to open and edit. You can now create, edit, or delete records like any other grid. Editable CRM grids are created and configured through a familiar CRM record interface. A helpful configuration wizard guides you through the basic setup of an editable grid. Once you've created your grid, you can always come back here and make edits. From a simple form, you can edit row functionality, display options, as well as a number of grouping and sorting preferences. At the top of the page, you'll find an editable grid with all of your columns. You can use this grid to make edits to the display name, width, and alignment, as well as whether they are visible, read-only, or have a summary in the footer. You also have the ability to delete or add new columns. You can also change the column order using a simple drag and drop. For Editable CRM Grid customers, additional videos are available showing more in-depth how-to instructions on creating and configuring grids. Thanks again for your interest in AbleBridge Editable CRM Grid for Microsoft Dynamics CRM. For additional information about this or any other AbleBridge product or service, please visit our website, ablebridge.com, or send an email to info@ablebridge.com.